The unexpected arrival. The sun sank low over the Wyoming plains, turning the tall grass a shade of fire gold as Luke Caldwell waited by the station. His hands, rough from years of ranch work, flexed at his sides with nervous energy. He had faced rattlesnakes, wolves, droughts, and debt, but none of those things had set his heart racing like the thought of meeting the bride he had ordered through an agency in St. Louis. Life as a frontier rancher was lonely, and he knew he needed a partner, not just for chores or meals, but for companionship that the vast, echoing silence of the prairie could never give. When the wagon finally rattled down the dirt road, he straightened his hat and wiped the dust off his shirt. The driver cracked the reins, and the wagon came to a slow stop. Luke braced himself, rehearsing the words he might say, "Welcome," or "I'm honored you came," or maybe something simple like, "I've been waiting for you." But what he saw made his tongue turn to stone. Two women stepped down, identical in every detail, hair the color of chestnuts, eyes like clear spring water, faces carrying the same hopeful smile. They were twins, identical twins. For a moment, Luke thought the dust was playing tricks on him. But the reality struck quickly. He hadn't ordered two brides, and the agency hadn't mentioned a twin. "Mr. Caldwell?" One asked softly, her voice melodic, laced with nerves. The other echoed, "Mr. Caldwell?" as though she shared the same thought at the exact same time. Luke swallowed hard. His bride was supposed to be Clara Hayes, a teacher from back east. But now Clara stood before him, and so did her sister Charlotte. "The agency only spoke of one," Luke said cautiously. Why are there two of you?" The sisters exchanged a look, then Clara spoke first. "We couldn't bear to part. Charlotte insisted she come along for the journey west. Life is dangerous, uncertain. We thought, together, we'd be stronger." Luke's mind reeled. He had pictured one woman stepping off the wagon, not two. How would the town react? How would he manage the strange turn of events? Charlotte folded her hands, gazing at him steadily. "We mean no trouble, Mr. Caldwell, but where one goes, the other follows. That has always been our way." Luke's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the whirlwind of possibility. Two sisters bound together, two women with the same face, the same smile, standing there with their lives about to entwine with his. As the wagon driver tipped his hat and rode off, dust trailing behind, Luke realized his life had shifted in a way no one could have predicted. The prairie wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying a secret question into the twilight. Which sister would destiny choose? And could a man's heart divide, or would it be consumed entirely? The heart's trial. The following weeks were both a dream and a torment for Luke Caldwell. Clara, the bride he had written letters to, was everything he imagined, gentle, thoughtful, and skilled in the arts of homemaking. She had a knack for taming the rough edges of ranch life, her hands smoothing tablecloths, her voice humming old hymns as she cooked. But Charlotte, her twin, was a force of her own. Spirited, bold, with a laugh that rang out over the cattle pens. She rode horses as if born in the saddle and spoke to Luke like she had known him for years. Clara warmed his hearth. Charlotte lit his sky, and every day Luke felt himself being pulled in two directions. His heart caught in a storm he had not chosen. The town whispered, of course. At church, people stared. Some said Luke had been tricked, others that God had sent him a test. The preacher even pulled him aside one morning. "A house divided cannot stand," the man warned. But Luke could not send Charlotte away. He had grown used to her laughter, her fearless company. Nor could he neglect Clara, whose gentle love reminded him why he had ordered a bride in the first place. The sisters, for their part, made no demands. They seemed content to live side by side, though. Luke noticed their glances sometimes. Clara watching Charlotte with quiet worry, Charlotte watching Clara with a secret sadness. One evening, after a long day branding cattle, Luke found the two sitting on the porch, their faces lit by lantern glow. Clara spoke softly. "Luke, we must know. Your letters were to me, not to us both. Yet here we are, sharing a home, sharing a future. It cannot go on this way. Charlotte's eyes flashed, but her voice was calm. "He cannot choose without tearing us apart. We've always been together. If he favors one, the other suffers." Luke's heart twisted. Never had he felt such weight upon his soul. How could he love one without betraying the other? How could destiny be so cruel as to bind him to two halves of the same whole? The prairie stretched endlessly beyond, wild and unforgiving. He realized his life was no longer just about survival. It was about a decision that could shape three destinies forever. Clara reached for his hand. Charlotte looked at him fiercely, as though daring him to speak. The lantern flame flickered, throwing their identical faces into shadow and light. And Luke Caldwell knew that whatever choice he made, the frontier would never forget the tale. The rancher who waited for one bride and found himself confronted with two souls, alike in form but divided in spirit. The night air thickened with the weight of fate, and the answer hovered on his lips, waiting to shatter the fragile balance that held them all.